you're meant to be inspiring the next generation. What sort of look is that giving off to the younger kids, to the younger generation?
Spencer, just picking up the interview, I did want to talk to you about Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn and the delay. There's some breaking news from talkSPORT in regards to Conor Benn's rejection now of his license for the British Boxing Board of Control. Just talk to me about this. It's fairly new. It's just been broken out in the last 10 minutes or so. He's been rejected his British boxing license. Just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, my understanding is that Conor Benn's application for a British Boxing Board of Control licence has been rejected by the British Boxing Board of Control because of the situation that's still ongoing, you know, with this appeal, etc. So yeah, I sort of understand where that's coming from. Does that put that fight on February the 3rd into jeopardy? Well, sort of, yeah, because obviously Conor wanting to box at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Chris Eubank Jr. on February the 3rd. He can't do that, obviously, without this British Boxing Board of Control licence. So, yeah, it's a blow for Conor Benn and his team, but I think the Boxing Board of Control want him to go through that due process. And that's pretty much where we're at with it. So, yeah, from what I'm just hearing, the application has been rejected, yeah.
Do you feel like that fight could be taken through different avenues? There's talk about the PBA getting involved in this one. Do you feel like that could be a case where, you know, they sort of bypass it and go through another route, maybe the PBA or elsewhere?
Well, look, I think that the problem that the fight has got itself, as in, you know, forget the Derek Chisora fight when he boxed David Haye and they done it on a different licence. Things have changed since then, and I think that, you know, the British Boxing Board of Control have to, even if they're boxing under a different licence, whether that's a Maltese licence or whatever, I think that has to get a sanctioning from the British Boxing Board of Control, and that's where you're at right now. And I think that with the position that Conor Benn's in and failing those two tests, not proving his innocence and sort of going here, there and everywhere all about that, I think that it's going to be difficult for him right now to be able to box on British soil until he faces the Boxing Board of Control and explains how that got into his system. And until he does that, I think that he's going to have a problem.
You know, the British Boxing Board of Control have said, listen, if this fight or anything like this happens and happens elsewhere, then anyone that's involved in the fight, you know, it affects their licence. I want to talk about Chris Eubank Jr.'s perspective then in that case. If this does go through another route and it does affect his British Boxing Board of Control licence, do you envisage him then fighting out elsewhere, just fighting out in the States or something like that?
Well, it's sort of have to, and I think everybody else that's involved in that as well, and that's down to trainers, managers. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of complications surrounding this fight and the people that are involved in the fight as well. You know, I think that we're talking about a fight here and a fighter that's failed two tests, and this is not a personal attack on Conor, it's a fact that he's failed two tests, hasn't proven his innocence, and like other fighters that have done it in the past, they've had to serve their bans before they can move on with their careers, and that's the way that it is. You can't all of a sudden go, oh, well, fuck the board and fuck them and fuck this, and like, you know, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway, and just continue, because what sort of, you know, what sort of, you're meant to be inspiring the next generation. What sort of look is that giving off to the younger kids, to the younger generation? Oh, actually, that's all right. Yeah, look, he failed two tests, and he didn't prove his innocence, but he went and just done whatever. So it's really, it's not a fucking a good look on the sport. And I think that, you know, everybody that's involved in that should be ashamed of themselves, really, because we're trying to make the sport as clean as possible, and, you know, with that, it's just not a good look. You know, I think you have to go through the due process. If you're going to get caught, if you fail two tests, then you've got to explain that situation. And if you can't explain that, you know, you do the crime, you serve the time, and that's basically where we're at with it. You know, and you know, if you want to take that risk, But if you get caught, fucking own it.
Ricky Spence, I didn't want to take too much of your time. I just want your reaction to that. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that, mate.